Welcome to Unfiltered Summit Sisters. I'm Gina.
And I'm Julia.
We are two ride-or-die best friends who are paving the path for what true, authentic relationships look like.
We're facing hardships head-on, having real, uncensored conversations, supporting each other's growth, and shining a light on true, raw healing.
We are navigating the world the best we know how.
Having a hell of a time doing it.
Laughing every step of the way.
Through the rain
and sunshine.
This is Canyon Culture.
Welcome back to Unfiltered Summit Sisters. We are in a very cute spot.
It's so cute.
It's a little wedding spot we found up the canyon with twinkle lights that you can't see because it's the morning.
Yeah.
But it's just the cutest little spot. There's even a little fire pit right here.
Yeah, it's doing a really crappy job keeping my toes warm right now because
they
are frozen.
Yeah. One of these days we really do need to do a fire.
For real.
We should come back here and do a fire.
That'd be so
Here's
fun.
my thing though. Can we hire someone to come build the fire and we just show up?
Right.
Like, hey, Grug, could you go light a fire?
He is in charge of the city. So.
But you had a comment that really touched your heart.
I did.
A way of wanting to address it on one of our platforms that you want to discuss.
I did. We got an Instagram message from one of our followers who is a single mom as well.
Mm-hmm.
And she was saying, how do you keep going? Because I feel completely hopeless right now. And
that's so hard.
One, I didn't see it for a bit because it went to our message requests, right?
Oh, shoot.
And so then I did finally see it. And I have not been able to get it just out of my mind and my heart because I get it.
We've both been there.
We've been there.
We are there often.
We felt that. So I wanted to take an episode to discuss that, to talk about it, to share whatever God lays on our hearts to share.
Yeah.
With single parents who may need to hear that right now.
Parents who may need to hear it right now. People.
Absolutely.
Because that's the thing. This is not an isolated. What I'm learning about with single parenting is so many of the emotions we have are not isolated to single parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
There are plenty of people who are lonely in their marriages. There's plenty of people who are lonely who have never had a spouse.
Right.
We all have these feelings. They just have, our circumstances are different. And it's sometimes we connect with people who have the same circumstances a little bit more than others.
Right.
But all these feelings are human. So
we're going to talk about the feelings of just hopelessness and how do you keep going when you have nothing left?
Yeah. So for both of us, I think the main thing is God.
Absolutely.
Because he is somebody that we built a relationship with early on. I would not get through any of it without him.
Absolutely. I have definitely had seasons of feeling hopeless. I still have days. I'll be honest right now. I don't know why God has us recording this right now because it has been hard for me lately. And I have had a lot of feelings of hopelessness. But I do want to make the distinct separation between feelings and truth. So do I have feelings of hopelessness? Yes. Is that the actual truth? Absolutely not, because God is hope and light, and he is my foundation. And so if there is any area of my life where I am feeling completely hopeless, that's the enemy getting into my mind, and I'm entertaining those thoughts.
Yeah.
And then I'm having those feelings of hopelessness.
I think having faith when you're in those moments and recognizing that is the enemy, because we have the faith, it drives us closer to God. We choose to drive closer to God during those moments. We recognize, we're slipping into, or we're being attacked by Satan.
Right.
And because we choose to go closer to God, I think that's what gives us the strength. And I think that's an amazing thing.
But so what does that realistically look like when you say you're having feelings of hopelessness and then you're choosing to draw closer to God? What does that realistically look like for you?
Oh, just vulnerability and prayer. And I'm learning right now, I have had faith in God for a long time, but walking in faith is a very different thing.
Right.
So to tell him, I want to follow you, and then to make the choices during my day to follow him are two very separate things.
Yeah.
And so for me, what I'm learning is when I'm in a place of hopelessness is to serve.
Okay.
My kids, myself, my community, other people, is to take myself, because service is the pure love of Christ. And when you remove yourself from that, you're just standing in light, and it's powerful. It's something that, I talk a lot about with Jared, the functional medicine doctor that we see. I talk a lot with my kids, but service, I think, is a huge one. And it's what I've been directed to from outward influences and Christ and God is when I'm feeling those moments, drawing closer to God is to serve.
I think it pulls you out of your own circumstances and positions your heart to be a conduit for God's love.
Yes, which doesn't make our situations better, but it removes Satan's ability to make it worse.
Yes.
So having financial hardships, having kids with, extra hard situations, having issues with our exes and stuff like that don't change, but our hearts change and our intentions change and our mind is set on other people, and it lets the darkness it's so bright. There's no room for darkness. And so that's where I have faith in God, is I'm going, nothing changed.
Right.
My ex is still hard. My kids are still hard. Finances are still hard. The economy sucks.
Right.
None of that has changed. But I've chosen to follow Christ, and that is through service. And things are a little bit brighter, but it's not consistent. I have to make that choice, and some days I'm too tired. Yes. Some days it's too heavy. Some days it's too much. Some days I just get pissed because I want to be served.
Right.
So it's hard. It's really hard.
I think if we're going to talk about my darkest of darkest days, that's still come and go. I'm not past them.
I don't think we ever are going to be.
Right. They're come and go. They're
just going to shift and change.
On my darkest of days, I have to lower expectations big time.
Yes, I think that's a good one.
Big time. And I do not hold anything back with my relationship with God. I tell him I am mad right now.
Yes.
I feel like you are being cruel right now. I literally say, and this is going to piss off a whole lot of religious people. I keep telling my dad I'm going to write a book that says, I trust you, God, ... but fuck.
Yeah, I feel that.
Because that is how it feels.
Yeah.
And so on my darkest days, I do what I absolutely have to, as far as, I have to show up for work. Not a whole lot other happens.
Yeah. And that's okay.
Kids fend for themselves. They feed themselves. I lay in bed. And I do absolutely have days where I'm feeling sorry for myself, and I am in the dirty river, and it's just dark. It is freaking dark.
Doing what you can to not succumb to the absolute darkness.
Yes.
But I love that the thing is, if you think about relationships, the closest relationships you have are when you are vulnerable and you are saying everything on your mind.
Right.
Why would we hold back from God?
Yeah.
He's our Father. He's our everything. Like, why? Like, he already knows. It's not like he doesn't know. Right. And so for us to say, I trust you enough that I'm going to say all of these hard things that are on my heart and on my mind, because I know I still have faith in you.
Yes.
But I need to move through this, and you need to hear from me how awful this feels, and how sometimes I feel like you're being really cruel.
Yes.
With these challenges you're putting before us. But I still have faith in you. I still trust you, but man, this is not what I want.
It is. And I told you, this year I had a goal to read through the entire Bible.
Yeah.
And we're on, I don't even know what the date is. Good God. We're really close to Christmas. It's Monday. Today is not Monday. I don't know. But I'm reading through, and I've stayed consistent to my goal despite my dark days, despite feelings of hopelessness, right? But there are days that I'm reading through, and I'm reading Psalms, and David is like, God, you're so good, and you provide this, and you did this, and you did that, and I'm reading it, and I audibly, I stop, and audibly to God, I'm like, none of this feels true right now.
Yeah.
Where are you? None of this feels true. What am I missing?
Yeah.
And so the point of telling you guys all that is that I'm keeping constant open communication. Yep. And it is not a religious thing. I'm not on my knees. I'm not saying pretty words at all.
Nope.
I am
not
open
formal.
And vulnerable and completely honest with him. And then I just have to literally breathe and know that super dark day will pass, and the next day will feel a little less dark.
We talk a lot about, you and I talk about visualization, how powerful that is. With manifesting, well, I don't want to say manifesting, but just in general, like a lot of our healing work that we've done, there are portions of it that's visual. So we talk about the dirty river, and when I visualize me sitting in a dirty river, and you're sitting there next to me, and
I'm like in my bikini, and it's like
I was going to say that too. Yeah, we're both in a very hot swimsuits, and it's very dirty and muddy.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of times where I am cleansing a lot of things. There's this term slime. We've been slimed by our past relationships, and I physically have to remove that from my body every day because I feel that slime often. But I sit in my car and I have conversations with God, and on those dark days when I say those hard things, like you were just saying, I do this in my car because I'm just like, I say a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I feel like in my car, it's a little safer. No one can hear me, kind of a thing. I will literally walk and sit with Christ. Sometimes it's in the mountains usually it's on like a wooden swing bench. I don't know why, but that's usually where we're sitting.
Love that.
Or we're on a beach. And I sit with him and as I'm praying, and I am in my dark places and I'm saying the hard things, but the looks in his eyes, it's so weird because I'm like, I can see the way that he looks at me and he's like, I know, I got you. And he hugs me. And it's the kind of thing where it's not a physical hug, right?
Right.
But I can feel it lift. And he's just like, I got you. And that's where the faith comes in, right? But I think that visualization is super powerful for me. That works for me. That doesn't work for everybody. But that works for me because a lot of times where are you? Why are my kids having to suffer like this? Why am I having to suffer? Why is Julia having to suffer like this?
Right.
Why are we having to be here? 5 years later, we are really, really scraping the bottom of the barrel of our energy and our ability to get through this hard time. But to have those moments, and like I just have memories almost with Christ, which is incredible. Those get me through. And that builds my faith because then I get up and I dust myself off and I either do the service or whatever it is I do. And we move through it. It doesn't stop from the next time having to do it again.
Right.
It doesn't, again, nothing's changed. But I have to choose to invite Christ into my life.
Right.
He's always there waiting, and I have to invite him. And those times where I am not inviting him are the times where those dark times last longer, that those dark thoughts get super dark.
Right.
And succumbing. But I do the same thing. There's days I shut down. There's days that I'm just laying in my bed. I get the work done. I get the kids fed. I take care of what has to get done, which, to be honest, is a lot. But then I don't do much anything else. Those days still happen after my hug from Jesus. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like, so we get through however we get through, but I think the baseline is our faith.
Yep. I think there are 4 things that I want to touch on for this in particular. One is the base that we already talked about, our relationship with God.
Yeah.
I don't know how anybody does life without him.
Yes.
Another one would be really prioritizing sleep, which we try really hard to do. And I know that is really difficult for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons. I get that. You have to prioritize sleep. Moving my body is another one. There are days that are so dark, I don't have the energy to train. I don't have the willpower to train, which says a lot for me because that is my go-to. Just to walk. Yep. If I can just walk, if I can just get some sunshine, if I can just ride my bike in my room for 10 minutes, moving my body. And then the last one would be reaching out to people in your circle, which I'm horrible about.
You're
so preaching the choir here, but reaching out to people and letting them know. Yeah. Right. And so there's been a text that I've been meaning to send that I haven't done yet. Weird. Just basically to say, like, guys, I'm having a hard time. I'm in a dark place. I don't need anything specifically. I just need you to know.
Well, that's prayers come from that. And that gives people the opportunity to serve you in ways and listen to, God letting them be instruments in his hands. So you may not know what you need, but then maybe a card or a sweet treat comes and that's exactly what you need that day.
Right. And that's hard for me because I isolate.
Yes, you do.
A lot.
I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast, but it's weird how you isolate more being 6 doors down than you did in Texas because we're just doing life. Right. And it's just different. And so you're able to disappear. And I'm just like, wait a minute. Where'd she go? Yeah. It's like, go to your house and find you.
I think those are the four things that I want to share
Yeah.
on this particularly. So relationship with God, some kind of exercise, movement,
Mm-hmm.
something, sleep, and then reaching out to your trusted inner circle.
Yeah. I don't know how many I have. I think I have two. So I think it's the service idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then giving yourself grace.
Absolutely.
You taught me that. I don't have to be on all the time. I don't have to be perfect all the time. I can lay in my bed, and that is okay. And I'm not failing by doing that.
Mm-hmm.
If my kids make their own dinner 3 nights a week for a little bit, that's okay.
Yep.
That's okay. If they have to tuck themselves in at night, that's okay. Just giving myself grace that I cannot be on 24/7.
Right.
And sometimes my best is 15%.
And that's okay.
And that's okay. So I think those are all great tips.
I think it reminds me of, there's some saying, and I'm going to butcher it, that's said so much more eloquently, but basically the saying was, good times don't last, bad times don't last. Seasons are ever changing. So whatever you're sitting in right now, this isn't it. This isn't it forever. It'll change. Change will come.
Yeah. And change is hard for a lot of people.
I don't know who you're talking about right now, but I feel really singled out.
Couldn't be either of us. No, change is hard, but because it's the unknown, right?
Right.
But there's the unknown good, which I think is where God shines through, because he can give us things we couldn't fathom. I couldn't imagine us being closer than we were before you moved here.
I know. Right.
And now, like, you leave for Texas to go to Thanksgiving for a week, and we're both like crying.
Literally FaceTime you crying, being like, can I come home, please? You're like, it's not Thanksgiving yet.
Or just
but if we start driving now, we could still have Thanksgiving dinner late.
I couldn't, it's one of those things where it's just, there's unknown. God is able to provide so much more. And if we have that faith and we take that leap, he's like, watch, just trust me, watch. And I'm still kind of waiting for a lot of the like, hey, I did it.
Right.
So patience, which is fun. But anyway, the unknown is hard, but I think when you've got faith in God, it's worth it. And you have to trust that he knows what's best for you.
Yep.
But we all feel it. That hopelessness is real.
Absolutely.
And it's hard. But I think a lot of the things we talked about today are really great ways to manage it and get through it. Because, so a lot of days we feel hopeless.
Just remember that those feelings are valid and they are good communicators, but they are not truth.
Correct. Yeah. I am grateful for change. Because without change, I wouldn't have become the better woman that I am today. And I'm so proud of this version of me. And that only has come through faith and willing to take on change. And I'm grateful that I had that opportunity. Sounds stupid because it was hard and it was really uncomfortable and I didn't like it. But and I'm thinking more about my marriage, right? Like 13 years of really hard. Now 5 years of different really hard. I think I'd do it all over again, because I think that this version of me is getting closer and closer to this divine potential that God has placed in me. And that is my ultimate goal. And if that's what I had to walk through to get here, let's go. So that's hard to say because it's been hell.
Right.
But I am so proud of the work that I've done and the woman that I've become and the woman that I plan to never stop working towards being. And so I'm grateful for the hardships. I'm grateful for the hopeless moments.
Wow.
Sounds really weird.
No, but that's where you find out who you really are.
Exactly. And I've been really impressed with what I've done. She's doing great.
She's a rock star.
Kind of a badass.
Oh man. I am really grateful for my relationship with God. We touched on this a little bit, but it is one thing to know about him, to know of him, and it is a completely different thing to sit with him.
Yes.
And that is not how my relationship with God has always been. It wasn't until I lost a baby and hit a really, really low point in my life, and went through a whole journey of really getting to know God on an intimate level and sitting with him, and having him just hold the softest, most vulnerable, wounded parts of me, and having him just heal that. heal those parts and walk with me through those. And looking back, I mean, if I hadn't had gone through all of that, my relationship with God had not been so solid, I don't know how the hell I would have made it through the last 5-6 years. Right.
And that's having faith in Christ, right? Like that's
Yeah.
having faith, is going, this was hard, but I know you've got a plan for it. So
knowing, looking back and seeing where he's brought me, and just how my relationship with him has changed and grown over the years. I'm really thankful for where I'm at, which feels really weird to say again, because I am having a lot of dark days right now and a lot of hopeless moments. But in all of that, I don't question my faith, and I don't question him.
That's strong and powerful.
Mm-hmm. That's what grounds me. That's what holds me down.
Amen.
Yeah.
We love this community.
Absolutely.
I'm so grateful that this follower of ours felt vulnerable and was willing enough to share that she feels that way. And I hope this is helpful.
Yeah, you're not alone. We absolutely feel that way. And I hope that something in here was encouraging or brought a little bit of light to your life. But you are absolutely not alone. And where you're sitting right now is not your final destination. You've got so much more coming for you.
Absolutely. Okay, we'll see you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Unfiltered Summit Sisters.
Come join us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok to get a sneak peek into our lives.
It's beautiful, chaotic, crazy, and fun.
What else would you expect raising 10 kids?
All the links you need are in the show notes.
See you next week.